The night Earth surrendered was unnaturally still. Communication satellites hung like silent sentinels above a world that had long ago stopped looking up at the stars with wonder. Now, humanity only looked up in fear. General Aria Solen stood alone on the observation deck of Enceladus Station, her reflection ghosting across the reinforced glass that separated her from the vacuum of space. Beyond that barrier, Saturn's rings stretched across the void, a silent testament to the beauty of a universe that had proven far more hostile than humanity's ancestors could have imagined. She pressed her palm against the cold surface, feeling the subtle vibration of the hidden shipyards beneath the moon's icy crust. The Black Fleet, her fleet, was preparing for war while the rest of humanity prepared for subjugation. "General," a voice called from behind her. "The broadcast is beginning." Aria didn't turn. "Put it through, Hound." Captain Juno Hound Reyes, her tactical officer and most trusted friend, activated the display with a gesture. The holographic projection materialized between them, showing the United Earth Council chamber in Geneva. Representatives from the remnants of human civilization, the surviving colonies on Mars, the corporate states of Earth, the research outposts on Titan, sat in a semicircle beneath the cold gaze of High Judicator Velix. The alien was tall and unnaturally still, its iridescent exoskeleton catching the light as it moved. The Empire had never revealed much about their biology or culture, preferring to let fear and speculation fill the gaps in human knowledge. All that was certain was their technological superiority and their obsession with what they called unity, the complete subordination of all sentient life to imperial will. "People of Earth." Velox's voice was melodic, almost pleasant, an unsettling contrast to the threat it carried. "For decades, you have enjoyed the Empire's patience. We have allowed your fractured species time to recognize the inevitability of full integration. That time has ended." The camera panned across the faces of Earth's representatives. Some showed fear, others resignation. None showed defiance. "The Empire's harmony requires your complete surrender. All military assets will be decommissioned. All governance will be conducted through approved proxies. All dissident elements will be filtered." Filtered. The euphemism made Aria's jaw clench. She had seen the aftermath of filtration on the outer colonies, minds wiped clean of identity, bodies repurposed as labor units for imperial projects. Not death, but something worse. "You have 24 Earth hours to sign the Unity Accords." Velox continued. "Any resistance will be met with planetary purification. Choose wisely." The transmission ended, leaving only the stars visible through the observation window. Aria's reflection stared back at her, the scars on her face a map of previous battles, previous losses. "They'll sign it," Hound said, her voice tight. "The Council has no spine left." "I know." Aria finally turned to face her officer. "Activate secure protocols. I want all Black Fleet captains on a direct quantum link in 1 hour." Hound's eyes widened. "We're going to move against the Council's orders?" "The Council no longer speaks for humanity," Aria said, her voice hardening with resolve. "They speak only for their own fear." As Hound hurried away, Aria returned her gaze to the distant speck of blue that was Earth, barely visible past Saturn's magnificent rings. Memories flooded back, the Martian uprisings, where her own people had been slaughtered for daring to demand self-governance. The psychotronic assault on Europa that had left thousands as mindless drones. The slow, inexorable tightening of the Empire's grip on human civilization. They had tried diplomacy. They had tried compliance. They had tried hiding. None of it had worked. Now, there was only one option left: to roar back against the darkness, even if it meant their extinction. 6 hours later, Aria stood before the assembled captains of the Black Fleet. Some were present in the flesh, having navigated the treacherous ice tunnels of Enceladus to reach the Central Command bunker. Others appeared as holographic projections, their ships too far flung for a physical meeting. They were a diverse group, veterans of Earth's last wars, defectors from corporate security forces, idealists and pragmatists united by a single conviction. Humanity deserved to determine its own fate. "The Council will sign the surrender by this time tomorrow," Arya began without preamble. "When they do, the Empire will begin immediate disarmament of all known military installations." "Known being the operative word," interjected Captain Lena Kozlov of the dreadnought Defiance. Her hologram flickered slightly, the interference a reminder of the risks she took transmitting from her hiding place in the asteroid belt. "Precisely." Arya nodded. "The Black Fleet has remained undetected for nearly a decade. The Empire believes humanity's military capacity was crippled after the Battle of Deimos. They have no idea what we've built here." She gestured, and the room's central display activated, showing the extent of their forces: 17 capital ships, 42 cruisers, over 100 support vessels, all constructed in secret beneath Enceladus's ice. Black hulls designed to absorb rather than reflect sensors, experimental drive systems that left minimal thermal signatures, weapons developed by scientists who officially didn't exist. "It's not enough," said Commander Isaiah Washington, his face grim. "Not against their full force." "We don't need to defeat their full force," Arya countered. "We need to disrupt their command structure and demonstrate that humanity will not surrender without devastating costs to the Empire." "You're proposing a suicide mission." Kozlov's voice was flat, not accusatory. "I'm proposing the only mission left to us." Arya's eyes moved from face to face. "If we do nothing, we're already dead, or worse. This isn't about winning. It's about denying them the victory they expect." She brought up another display, the schematics of the Imperial flagship Oblivion's Scourge, currently in orbit around Earth. "High Judicator Velox coordinates all Imperial forces in our system from here. The ship also houses their primary psychotronic array, the weapon that turns our own minds against us. Without it, their ground forces will be temporarily isolated from Central Command." "How did you get these schematics?" Washington asked, suspicion edging his voice. "From me." A new voice spoke as another hologram materialized in the center of the room. Murmurs erupted as the captains recognized Admiral Ren Locke, once Arya's most promising protege, now the Empire's chief peace emissary to humanity. His Imperial uniform stood in stark contrast to the battle-worn attire of the Black Fleet officers. "Before you call for my head," Locke raised his hands in a placating gesture, "know that I'm transmitting on a secure quantum channel that bypasses Imperial monitoring. Even so, I have only minutes before my absence is noted. Why should we trust anything from an Imperial lapdog?" Hound's hand had moved to her sidearm. "Because I was there for the classified briefings after the surrender terms were delivered." Locke's voice was tight with suppressed emotion. "The Empire has no intention of honoring any protections for human autonomy. The filtration process is being prepared for Earth's entire population, starting with children under 15. They will erase everything that makes us human." Silence fell across the command center. "I've uploaded everything I could access," Locke continued. "Patrol routes, communication protocols, shield frequencies. But it won't matter if you wait until after the surrender is signed. Once the accords are officially accepted, the psychotronic array will activate at full capacity across Earth. Everyone who isn't shielded will become compliant." "You're suggesting we strike now," Arya said, studying her former student's face. "Before the Council signs." "I'm begging you to." Locke's hologram flickered. "I have to go. If you do this, if you strike, I'll do what I can from the inside. But," he hesitated, "don't expect mercy. Arya, not even from me. Not if we meet in battle." His image vanished, leaving the captains in stunned silence. "It could be a trap," Washington said after a moment. "Everything is a trap," Arya replied. The question is whether we spring it on our terms or theirs. She straightened, her decision made. Prepare your ships. We launch in 6 hours. Our target is the Oblivion Scourge and Earth's orbital defense grid. We hit them simultaneously, with everything we have. As the captains dispersed, Hound remained behind, her expression troubled. You don't trust Locke, Arya observed. I don't trust anyone who wears that uniform, Hound replied. Even if he believes what he's saying, he could be compromised without knowing it. The Empire's psychotronic technology. I know the risks, Arya cut her off, but we're out of alternatives and out of time. Hound nodded reluctantly. What about the spy? Security picked up quantum transmissions from somewhere inside the base 3 days ago. Arya's expression hardened. Find them, before we launch. As Hound left to coordinate with security, Arya returned to the strategic display. The odds were impossible. Even with surprise on their side, even with Locke's intelligence, they were outnumbered and outgunned. But sometimes, the roar of defiance mattered more than the certainty of victory. Beneath the frozen surface of Enceladus, massive hangar doors groaned open, disgorging ships that had never seen the light of day. Their hulls were matte black, absorbing rather than reflecting light, making them appear as voids against the stars. One by one, they emerged from hiding, drives powering up in carefully controlled sequences to minimize detection. On the bridge of the dreadnought Retribution, Arya watched as her fleet assembled. The ship vibrated beneath her feet as its ancient engines, salvaged and rebuilt from decommissioned Earth vessels, powered up to full capacity. All ships report ready. General, Hound announced from her tactical station. And our uninvited guest? Security found evidence of unauthorized communications from Lab Section 12, but the perpetrator is gone. They must have realized we were closing in. Arya frowned. Lock down all sensitive systems. Prepare for potential data compromise. Already done, Hound confirmed. If they transmitted our attack coordinates, then we're already dead, Arya finished. But we were dead anyway. She activated the fleet-wide communication channel. This is General Solen. For years, we've hidden while our worlds burned and our people suffered. We've waited for a diplomatic solution that was never coming. We've hoped for mercy from an enemy that knows none. Her voice grew stronger with each word. Today, we stop waiting. Today, we show the Empire that humans don't surrender their humanity. Not without a fight that will be remembered across the stars. She paused, allowing her words to reach every corner of every ship. Our mission is clear. Disable the Oblivion Scourge and destroy Earth's orbital defense grid before it can be turned against the planet's population. We hit hard, we hit fast, and we show no mercy, because they will show none to us. Her finger hovered over the command console. For Earth, for Mars, for every human soul. The Black Fleet surged forward, accelerating toward the inner solar system. Their course took them through the sparse outer reaches of Saturn's rings, using the ice and debris for additional sensor coverage. Stealth systems engaged, dampening their energy signatures to the bare minimum required for operation. In her ready room, Arya reviewed the battle plan one final time. The fleet would split at Jupiter's orbit, half targeting the defense grid, half striking at the Imperial flagship. Timing was crucial. A synchronized attack was their only hope of overwhelming the Empire's defenses before reinforcements could arrive. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal Lian Cho, the fleet's chief intelligence officer. Her usual composure was absent, replaced by visible agitation. We have a problem, Cho said without preamble. The spy. I know who it is. Arya gestured for her to continue. Commander Elias Durant. He's been feeding information to someone in the Imperial hierarchy for at least 3 months. Arya's blood ran cold. Durant was her chief of operations, with access to virtually every aspect of the Black Fleet's plans. Evidence? Quantum residue patterns on his personal terminal match those from the unauthorized transmissions. And he's missing. He was supposed to be on the Defiance, but he never boarded. If he transmitted our attack vector. He did worse, Cho interrupted, her voice tight. He left behind a sabotage package in our navigation systems. If I hadn't caught it, our entire fleet would have dropped out of hyperspace directly into the Empire's main battle line. Arya's mind raced. Can you purge it? Already done. But we need to assume they know we're coming. Arya activated the fleet communication system. All ships, this is General Solen. Security Protocol Alpha 9. Change course to Contingency Vector Theta. Repeat, implement Contingency Theta immediately. The acknowledgements came in quickly as the fleet adjusted course. Contingency Theta was a more circuitous route, using Neptune's gravity well to slingshot them toward Earth with minimal engine signatures. It would delay their arrival by hours, but might preserve the element of surprise. Find Durant, Arya ordered Cho. He can't have gone far, not in a closed system like Enceladus Station. And if we can't find him in time? Arya's expression was grim. Then we proceed regardless. The timetable has accelerated, but the mission remains the same. As Cho left to coordinate the search, Arya returned to the bridge. The tactical display showed Neptune looming ahead, its blue expanse a final waypoint before the decisive battle. Status of Imperial patrols near Neptune? She asked Hound. Standard picket line. 4 destroyers, widely spaced. We should be able to slip past without engagement. Arya shook her head. We can't risk it. If even one patrol detects us and reports back, we lose our only advantage. Target the nearest destroyer with a long-range torpedo. Stealth configuration. Minimal wake. Hound hesitated. General, if we fire, even with stealth torpedoes... I know. Arya cut her off. But Durant has likely already compromised us. Better to eliminate potential witnesses than hope we remain undetected. The order was given. The torpedo launched, a specialized weapon designed for absolute stealth. Its propulsion system barely above ambient temperature. Its guidance system passive rather than active. It would take hours to reach its target, but when it did, the Imperial destroyer would have no warning. As the Black Fleet continued its approach to Neptune, Arya retreated to her quarters. Sleep was impossible, but she needed a moment of solitude to center herself before the coming storm. Her quarters were Spartan, a narrow bunk, a desk, and a single shelf containing her few personal possessions. Among them was a worn photograph showing a younger version of herself standing beside Ren Locke on the day of his commissioning as an officer. They were both smiling, unaware of the divergent paths that lay ahead. She picked up the photo, studying Locke's face. Had he truly turned, or was this elaborate deception? The intelligence he'd provided seemed genuine, but the Empire was known for its multi-layered strategies. A chime from her console interrupted her thoughts. General, Hound's voice came through. The torpedo has reached its target. Imperial destroyer neutralized. Any transmissions before it went dark? Negative. Clean kill. Arya replaced the photograph. Maintain course. I'll be on the bridge shortly. As she moved to leave, another alert sounded, this one on a frequency she hadn't heard in years. A direct quantum link, bypassing all fleet protocols. She hesitated, then accepted the transmission. Ren Locke's face appeared on her private display. You've made your move, he said without greeting. The destroyer near Neptune. They know something happened, even if they don't know what. You're monitoring their communications, Arya observed. I'm trying to give you a fighting chance. Locke's voice was strained. They're mobilizing reinforcements already. Whatever you're planning, you need to accelerate it. Why are you doing this, Ren? If they catch you... When they catch me, he corrected. And I'm doing it because I finally saw the truth. The filtration chambers they're preparing on Earth. He looked away, composing himself. No one deserves that. Not even us fractured humans. A noise sounded from somewhere off-screen, and Locke's expression changed. I have to go. They're coming. Just remember, the psychotronic array has been upgraded. It's not just a weapon anymore. It's connected directly to the judicator. Hit it hard enough, and you might take him with it. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving Arya staring at a blank screen. If Locke was telling the truth, they had even less time than she'd thought. If he was lying, she pushed the thought aside. Doubt was a luxury she couldn't afford, not with the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. When she returned to the bridge, the atmosphere was tense with anticipation. Neptune loomed large in the viewports, its swirling storms a stark reminder of the chaos they were about to unleash. Status report, she demanded. 3 more Imperial destroyers have changed course to investigate the lost ship, Hound replied. They'll reach the area in approximately 2 hours. And our ETA to Earth? 4 hours, 17 minutes at current velocity. Arya studied the tactical display. Increase to maximum burn. Once we're past Neptune, we need to strike before those destroyers can report back. The engines can't sustain that for long, the chief engineer warned over the comm. We're pushing experimental technology as it is. They don't need to last forever, Arya replied. They just need to get us there. As Neptune's gravity well captured the fleet, slingshotting them toward the inner system with gathering speed. Alarms suddenly blared across the bridge. Multiple contacts, Hound shouted. Imperial signatures emerging from Neptune's far side. It's an ambush. On the tactical display, a dozen red markers appeared, moving to intercept the Black Fleet's trajectory. Durant, Arya breathed. He didn't just warn them, he gave them our contingency plans. The Imperial vessels launched their first salvo, not conventional weapons, but concentrated bursts of psychotronic energy designed to disrupt human neural patterns. Several of the smaller Black Fleet vessels immediately went dark as their crews succumbed. Psycho-shielding at maximum, Arya ordered. Return fire, all batteries. The Retribution shuddered as its main guns unleashed hell. The specialized shells designed to penetrate Imperial shields through rapidly shifting frequencies. 2 enemy vessels erupted in silent explosions, their hulls rupturing in the vacuum of space. But more were coming. We can't take them all. Hound's voice was steady despite the chaos. Not and still have enough firepower for the main objective. Arya made her decision instantly. Cruiser squadrons 3 and 4, hold position and engage. Buy us the time we need. All other vessels, maximum burn toward Earth, now. It was a death sentence for those left behind, and everyone knew it, yet not a single captain hesitated. The designated squadrons broke formation, driving straight toward the Imperial ambush while the rest of the fleet accelerated away. As the Retribution cleared Neptune's gravity well, Arya watched the tactical display with a heavy heart. The sacrificial squadrons were already taking heavy damage, their life signs flickering out one by one as Imperial weapons found their marks. They'll be remembered, Hound said quietly. Arya nodded, unable to find words adequate for the moment. Instead, she turned her attention to the path ahead, to Earth, and the final battle that would determine humanity's fate. The remaining ships of the Black Fleet emerged from hyperspace on the dark side of Luna, using the moon's bulk to shield them from immediate detection. Earth hung in the void before them, its blue-white surface obscured by the metallic latticework of the orbital defense grid, a gift from the Empire that had gradually transformed into a cage. And beyond it, the Oblivion Scourge, a vessel so massive it distorted the very space around it, its hull bristling with weapons designed for planetary subjugation. Its central spire housed the psychotronic array, glowing with baleful energy as it prepared to enforce the Empire's will across an entire world. On the Retribution's bridge, Arya took in the sight with grim determination. Their forces had been diminished by the Neptune ambush, but the core of the fleet remained intact. "All ships, final combat positions," she ordered. "Cruisers target the defense grid nodes. Dreadnoughts with me against the flagship." The fleet split according to plan, each vessel moving with precision born of years of training. They had rehearsed this assault countless times in simulation. Now they would execute it for real, with the fate of humanity as their prize. As the first Black Fleet vessels came within range of the orbital sensors, alarms began to sound across the Imperial network. The element of surprise was gone. Now speed and ferocity were their only advantages. "All ships, weapons free," Arya commanded. "Show them humanity's answer to tyranny." The void erupted with energy as the Black Fleet opened fire simultaneously. Advanced torpedoes and particle beams lashed out at the defense grid, targeting the nexus points where the structure was most vulnerable. Imperial counterfire blazed in response, catching several human vessels with devastating accuracy. On the Retribution, Arya watched as the battle unfolded with chaotic intensity. The cruisers were taking heavy losses, but they were also inflicting significant damage on the grid. 3 major nexus points had already gone dark, creating gaps that Earth-based resistance fighters might exploit. But the true objective remained the Oblivion Scourge, which had begun to move ponderously toward the conflict, its massive weapons charging. "Status of the flagship's shields?" Arya demanded. "Operating at 87% capacity," Hound reported. "Our initial barrage barely scratched them. We need to get closer," Arya decided. "All dreadnoughts, close to minimum effective range, concentrate fire on the shield generators around the psychotronic spire." The order was acknowledged, and the Black Fleet's largest vessels adjusted course, driving straight toward the heart of Imperial power. The risk was enormous at closer range. The Empire's weapons would be even more devastating, but they had no choice. Only by overwhelming the flagship's defenses could they hope to disable the psychotronic array before it activated across Earth. As the distance closed, the Oblivion Scourge unleashed its full arsenal. Beams of coherent energy sliced through space, catching the dreadnought Defiance amidships and cutting it nearly in half. The vessel's reactor went critical moments later, the explosion temporarily blinding sensors across the battlefield. "Shields at 42%, the Retribution Systems officer reported as debris from the Defiance battered their defenses. "One more direct hit like that and we're exposed." "Evasive pattern Delta," Arya ordered, "and continue firing. Target everything you have on those shield generators." The Retribution corkscrewed through space, its aging engines protesting the maneuver but holding together through sheer engineering willpower. Its guns continued their relentless assault on the Imperial flagship, joined by the remaining dreadnoughts in a coordinated barrage. Slowly, the enemy's shield began to weaken, localized failures appearing around the psychotronic spire as the concentrated fire took its toll. Then, without warning, a new signal cut across all communication channels, a familiar voice that sent a chill down Arya's spine. "This is High Judicator Velox to the insurgent vessels," the melodic alien voice proclaimed. "Your resistance is noted but futile. The Empire acknowledges your spirit while rejecting your wisdom." A pause. Then, observe the consequence of defiance. A blinding light erupted from the flagship's central spire. Not a conventional weapon, but a focused psychotronic pulse of unprecedented power. It washed over the Black Fleet, bypassing shields and hull plating to strike directly at the minds within. Arya staggered as the pulse hit, a scream building in her throat as alien thoughts invaded her consciousness. Around her, bridge crew members collapsed, their minds overwhelmed by the psychic assault. Only her extensive psycho-shielding training allowed her to remain conscious, and even that was barely enough. Through blurred vision, she saw Hound fall to her knees, blood trickling from her nose as she fought against the intrusion. Across the fleet, ships began to drift as their crews succumbed to the psychotronic onslaught. "This," Velox's voice continued, seeming to originate from inside Arya's own mind, is unity. Accept it, and your suffering ends. With monumental effort, Arya dragged herself to the tactical console. Locke had warned that the psychotronic array was connected directly to the Judicator, if she could strike now. While that connection was active, her fingers, feeling like they belonged to someone else, inputted the command sequence for the Retribution's final weapon, a modified EMP torpedo designed to counteract psychotronic technology. It was experimental, untested in actual combat, but it was their only hope. "Target the spire," she gasped to the weapons officer, who was barely clinging to consciousness. "Fire. Everything." The officer managed to complete the targeting sequence just before collapsing. The Retribution shuddered as its remaining weapons unleashed their payload, the specialized torpedo leading the barrage. On the tactical display, Arya watched through pain-blurred eyes as the torpedo streaked toward the flagship. Imperial point defenses tracked it, energy beams lashing out to intercept, but the torpedo's erratic flight path, a feature of its design, allowed it to evade destruction. It struck the base of the psychotronic spire, directly at the point where the shield had weakened. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a cascade of blue-white energy erupted from the impact point, racing up the spire toward its peak. The psychotronic pulse faltered, then collapsed entirely as the counter-frequency from the torpedo disrupted its coherence. On the bridge of the Retribution, minds cleared as the alien influence receded. Arya pulled herself back to her feet, wiping blood from her own nose. "Status report." "The torpedo hit its mark," Hound reported, her voice hoarse. "Psychotronic array is offline, but their conventional weapons are still active. And our fleet? Devastated. We're down to 4 capital ships and maybe a dozen cruisers. The defense grid is approximately 60% destroyed." It wasn't enough. Not yet. The Empire could still bring overwhelming force to bear, could still subjugate Earth even without their psychic weapons. Unless... "Get me a direct channel to the flagship," Arya ordered. "To Judicator Velox, personally." "You want to talk to them?" Hound's disbelief was evident. "Now? I want them focused on me," Arya replied, her voice steady despite the pounding in her head. "While you prepare a full torpedo spread targeting their bridge." Understanding dawned in Hound's eyes. She nodded and moved to the weapons console, inputting commands with careful precision. Moments later, the main view screen activated, showing the interior of the Imperial flagship. High Judicator Velox stood at its center, surrounded by alien officers. The Judicator's iridescent exoskeleton showed signs of damage, black scorch marks that seemed to mirror the injuries on its vessel. "General Solen." Velox's voice had lost some of its melodic quality, now carrying an undertone of pain. "Your resistance is impressive, but ultimately meaningless. I offer you one final opportunity to surrender." "I was about to extend the same courtesy to you," Arya replied, forcing a confidence she didn't entirely feel. "Your psychotronic array is destroyed. Your defense grid is failing, and humanity has finally seen your true face." "You've won nothing," Velox insisted. "Even now, Imperial reinforcements approach. Your species will be punished for this insurrection, filtered down to its most basic components and rebuilt in the Empire's image." "Perhaps," Arya acknowledged. "But they'll know it was possible to fight back. They'll know the cost of freedom, and that knowledge will never be filtered away, no matter how hard you try." As she spoke, she noticed a figure moving in the background of the Imperial bridge, a human in an Imperial uniform. Ren Locke. His eyes met hers through the view screen, and a silent message passed between them. "Torpedoes ready," Hound whispered from the weapons console. Arya nodded almost imperceptibly. "One last thing. Judicator," she said, her voice ringing with newfound strength. "Humanity doesn't beg. Humanity doesn't surrender. Humanity roars. She signaled to Hound, who initiated the torpedo launch. At the same moment, on the Imperial bridge, Locke moved with sudden violence, drawing a concealed weapon and firing at the auxiliary control systems. The view screen erupted into chaos as the connection was severed. On the tactical display, Arya watched as the torpedoes streaked toward the damaged section of the flagship where its shields remained weakened. "All ships, clear the engagement zone," she ordered over the fleet-wide channel. "Maximum thrust. Any vector away from the flagship." The surviving Black Fleet vessels began to scatter, engines flaring as they raced to escape the impending explosion. The Retribution itself groaned under the strain as its damaged engines pushed to their limits. Behind them, the torpedoes found their mark. The Oblivion's Scourge's hull buckled as sequential detonations tore through its command section. Secondary explosions bloomed across its surface as power conduits overloaded and weapon systems misfired. "Did we get him?" Hound asked, watching the destruction unfold. "The Judicator?" "Unknown," Arya replied, "but we've hurt them. Badly." The flagship continued to burn, listing in space as its stabilizers failed. It wouldn't be destroyed completely. A vessel of that size had too many redundant systems, but its command structure had been decapitated. Without the High Judicator to coordinate them, the Imperial forces would be temporarily paralyzed. "What about Locke?" Hound's voice was quiet. Arya didn't answer immediately, her eyes fixed on the burning Imperial vessel. Locke had known what would happen when he created that distraction. He had made his choice. "He did what was necessary," she finally said. "As we all have." As the Retribution limped away from the battlefield, Arya moved to her command console. There was one final task to complete before their strength gave out entirely. "Open a channel," she ordered. "Maximum broadcast strength, all frequencies, Earth and colonies." When the channel was ready, she took a deep breath and spoke the words she had prepared long ago, in the early days of the Black Fleet's creation. "People of Earth, people of Mars, of Titan, of every human outpost and colony, this is General Arya Solen of the Black Fleet. Today, we struck a blow against Imperial tyranny. We have destroyed their psychotronic array and damaged their flagship. The orbital defense grid that has been used to imprison you is failing." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "What I send now is the truth the Empire has hidden from you, the evidence of what awaits if we surrender." With a gesture, she initiated the data transmission, the files Locke had provided, showing the filtration chambers being prepared on Earth, the Imperial directives outlining the systematic eradication of human culture, the secret protocols for the processing of children, unfiltered, uncensored evidence of humanity's planned extinction. "The Empire demanded our surrender," she continued as the data streamed out. "This is our answer. This is humanity's roar. Stand up. Fight back. We will find a way to survive, not as the Empire's drones, but as free human beings." As the transmission concluded, exhaustion finally overcame her. She slumped in her command chair, the accumulated injuries and stress of the battle taking their toll. "Orders." "General?" Hound asked, her own fatigue evident, but her loyalty unwavering. Arya straightened with effort. "Set course for the Mars Liberation Zone. We'll regroup with any survivors there." And then we continue the fight," Arya replied simply. This was only the first battle in a much longer war. As the Black Fleet's surviving vessels gathered their wounded and plotted their escape, Earth itself began to change. The transmission had reached its target. In cities across the planet, humans who had lived under Imperial influence for decades began to stir. Protests erupted in the corporate zones. Resistance cells, long dormant, activated their emergency protocols. The Empire had demanded Earth's surrender. Instead, they had awakened its defiance. And somewhere among the stars, humanity's roar echoed into the darkness. Admiral Ren Locke awoke to pain and darkness. His body felt broken, his mind fragmented by the psychic backlash of the Judicator's injury. Through blurred vision, he could make out the emergency lighting of an escape pod, standard Imperial design, barely large enough for a single occupant. Memory returned in jagged pieces. The bridge of the Oblivion's scourge. Arya's face on the view screen, his desperate attack on the auxiliary systems, timed to coincide with the Black Fleet's torpedo strike. The explosion that had thrown him against a bulkhead before emergency protocols had automatically stuffed his unconscious body into the nearest escape pod. A proximity alert chimed softly, indicating that the pod was approaching a planetary body. Earth. The pod's automated systems had defaulted to the nearest habitable world. Locke dragged himself to the small control panel, checking the landing coordinates. The pod was on trajectory for what had once been the eastern seaboard of the North American corporate zone. Now, according to the limited sensor data, it was a hotbed of resistance activity. He smiled despite the pain. Arya's broadcast had worked. Humanity was fighting back. The pod began its descent, heat building around its hull as it hit the upper atmosphere. Locke strapped himself in as best he could with injured limbs, preparing for a rough landing. The Empire would be looking for him. A high-ranking defector would be a priority target for recapture or elimination. But for the first time since he had accepted an Imperial commission, believing the lies about peace and cooperation between species, Ren Locke felt something like hope. He had seen the truth, had acted on it, and now he would join the fight on the ground. The pod crashed through the canopy of a dense forest, its retro thrusters firing too late to completely cushion the impact. Locke was thrown against his restraints, fresh pain blossoming across his already injured body. When the pod finally came to rest, embedded in soft earth, he allowed himself a moment to recover before forcing the hatch open. Clean air rushed in, real air. Not the sterile atmosphere of Imperial vessels, Earth air, home air, though Locke had been born on Mars and had spent most of his life in space. He pulled himself out of the pod, collapsing onto the forest floor as his legs gave way beneath him. He didn't know how long he lay there, drifting between consciousness and darkness, before the sound of approaching footsteps roused him. Human voices spoke in urgent whispers as figures emerged from the trees, weapons raised. Imperial uniform, one said, aiming directly at Locke's head, probably an officer. Wait, another countered, moving closer to examine him. I know this face, from the Resistance broadcasts. A woman knelt beside him, her expression guarded but curious. You're Admiral Locke. You're the one who helped the Black Fleet target the flagship. Locke nodded weakly. The Judicator. Is he dead? Unknown, the woman replied. Imperial communications are in chaos. Some say he survived but was badly injured. Others say a new Judicator is already on the way from the Imperial core worlds. Then we don't have much time. Locke struggled to sit up. The Empire never leaves a vacuum of power. They'll regroup, strengthen their position. We? The first speaker asked skeptically. You're wearing their uniform, Admiral. Locke looked down at the Imperial insignia on his chest, then tore it off with a sudden, violent motion. Not anymore. I've seen what they really are, what they plan to do to humanity. I want to fight. The Resistance fighters exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. You'll have your chance, the woman finally said, helping him to his feet. The whole world's fighting now. Your friend Solène made sure of that, as they helped him through the forest toward their hidden base. Locke could hear the distant sound of battle, the crack of weapons fire, the rumble of explosions. Earth's people had risen up, just as Arya had hoped. It would be a long war, a desperate one. The Empire's technological advantage was overwhelming, their resources nearly limitless. But they had underestimated human resilience, human ingenuity, and most of all, the human desire for freedom. In orbit above them, the remnants of the Black Fleet regrouped, their black hulls barely visible against the darkness of space. Damaged but unbowed, they would become the protectors of the Resistance, striking from the shadows before disappearing again. And on the bridge of the Retribution, General Arya Solin plotted the next phase of humanity's fight for survival. The first battle had been fought. The first victory, however small, however costly, had been won. Humanity had found its roar. Now it would learn to use it. 6 months later, Arya stood on a ridge overlooking what had once been Denver Corporate Zone, now one of the main bastions of human resistance on Earth. The city bore the scars of Imperial bombardment, craters where buildings had once stood, the skeletal remains of skyscrapers reaching like accusing fingers toward the sky. But it had not fallen. Makeshift defenses surrounded the perimeter, manned by a mixture of former corporate security forces and ordinary citizens who had taken up arms when Arya's broadcast revealed the Empire's true intentions. "They've held for 3 months without reinforcement," Juno Hound Reyes observed, standing at Arya's side. Her face bore new scars, souvenirs of the battle above Earth, but her eyes remained as sharp and determined as ever. "They're learning to fight back," Arya agreed. "All across the planet, the pattern is the same. The Empire expected immediate capitulation once their primary forces were deployed. They weren't prepared for a prolonged ground campaign. They're adapting, though," Hound cautioned. "The new filtration weapons." "I know," Arya's expression darkened. Unable to process Earth's entire population as originally planned, the Empire had resorted to more direct methods. The new weapons didn't require elaborate chambers or procedures. They rewrote neural pathways on contact, turning free humans into compliant drones within seconds. "Dr. Harrison says the countermeasure will be ready for mass production within weeks," Hound added, offering what comfort she could. "Until then, we focus on conventional warfare," Arya nodded, turning away from the view to head back toward their concealed shuttle. The Black Fleet, reduced to a shadow of its former strength, now operated primarily as a delivery system for supplies, intelligence, and key personnel between resistance strongholds. The Retribution itself remained in orbit around Mars, too damaged for frequent atmospheric entries but still serving as the command center for the human resistance. As they walked, Arya's comm unit signaled an incoming transmission. The quantum encryption indicated it was from Lian Cho, who had remained on the Retribution to coordinate intelligence operations. "Go ahead, Cho," Arya answered. "General, we've received a priority communication from Earth Central Command." Cho's voice came through clearly despite the distance. "Admiral Locke requests your presence at the Denver Strategic Planning Session. He says they've identified a weakness in the Imperial command structure, something about the new Judicator's psychic connection to the filtration technology." Arya and Hound exchanged meaningful glances. Since defecting to the Resistance, Locke had proven invaluable. His intimate knowledge of Imperial protocols and technologies providing the humans with precious advantages in an otherwise asymmetrical war. "Tell him we're already here," Arya replied. "We'll meet at the designated location in 1 hour." As they continued toward the shuttle, Hound broke the silence that had fallen between them. "Do you think we can actually win this, General? Not just survive, but win?" Arya considered the question carefully. The honest answer was that she didn't know. The Empire's resources dwarfed humanity's. Their technology was superior in almost every way, and they had conquered countless species before encountering Earth. By any rational calculation, the war was unwinnable. But rational calculations failed to account for the human spirit, the stubborn, relentless determination that had allowed her species to survive every calamity in its long history. "I think," she said finally, "that the Empire made a fundamental mistake. They saw our divisions, our corporate rivalries, our colonial disputes, our fractured politics, and mistook them for weakness. They never understood that humans fight hardest when our backs are against the wall. She gestured toward the resistant city behind them. Look at Denver. Corporate executives fighting alongside factory workers, former enemies united by a common threat. The Empire wanted to break our spirit, but they've only forged it into something stronger. Hound nodded slowly. They wanted our surrender, and they got our defiance instead. Arya finished. Our roar, and that roar is spreading across the stars, to every world where the Empire rules. We may not win today, or tomorrow, or in our lifetimes. But we've shown that resistance is possible. That alone changes everything. As they reached the shuttle, Arya paused for one final look at the horizon, where Imperial ships could be seen gathering for another assault on the city. Soon, she would be in the command center with Locke and the other resistance leaders, planning their counter-strategy. The war would continue, with all its sacrifices and horrors. But humanity would continue as well, free, defiant, and unified as never before. The Empire had demanded Earth's surrender. Instead, they had awakened the Black Fleet, and with it, humanity's indomitable spirit. And that, Arya knew, was a force that even the stars themselves could not extinguish.